Yo, what's good, everybody? Today is August the 26th, 2025. Most gracious and Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for yet another opportunity of prayer. Thank you, God, for tonight, just allowing us to see you another day, oh God. Thank you, God, for the viewers as well as their families. Thank you, God, also for our guests, oh God. I ask God that you will bless all the viewers, even the ones that will watch this playback later on throughout the week or whenever they see this particular show, God. We just ask God that you will be with them, that you guide them, that you keep them, and that you will comfort them, oh God. We ask you all these things in the mighty and the matchless name of Jesus. We pray. Amen. What's good, everybody? It's another episode. Hello, everybody. Y'all come on in. Let me know which platform you guys are streaming on or watching from, whether it be Facebook or YouTube. If you haven't already, please, as I usually say at the beginning of the show, if you haven't done so already, please go to the YouTube channel. That's the Marvin Bennett Jr. Show and subscribe. It's free for subscription. You'll get notified when we go on live, and you'll be able to watch all playbacks from there if you're not actually on the live in real time. But all the shows are on there, and you'll be able to have access to it. You can leave comments, and we'll get back to you on that if you watch it at a later date. Even and if you're watching live from YouTube, you can comment, and we'll get those questions as well as they come in. As usual, we're gonna start with our Born Day shout outs. I want to say happy Born Day again to Miss Janelle Branch, my fam Lonnie Baldwin, Mr. Patrice Saunders, happy heavenly birthday. Rest in peace, my brother. Erica Turner, Miss Kia Hall Smith. I actually did listen to a Tupac song Saturday in your honor. Just one. I listened to one with him and Scarface. I wouldn't listen to one just by itself. Happy born day to my cousin Gerald Bryant, my Brick City sister, Miss Sarita Welch, Miss Sherry Williamson, Brittany Hopkins, my man Richard Taylor, West Side Rough Riders for Life, EJ Johnson, Youth Pastor EJ Johnson, um, Miss Khadija, Salahuddin Supreme, my big sis, happy born day, girl. Dwight Cunningham, Debbie Wilson, my brother, our brother, Ronald Huff, Mark Quinn Gibson, my brother, Pastor James Tony, Miss Natalie Hurd, Miss Nana Hodge, Anthony Akonde, Nisha Lene, and last but not least, my cousin Michael Tucker. Happy born day to you all. Congratulations again to all the children that went back to school on this week. As I said, the last couple of weeks, let's keep all our teachers in prayer as well as students as they embark upon these new endeavors in the school year, no matter what level they on, whether it be college, middle school, elementary, preschool. It's so amazing seeing a lot of these different pictures throughout the last couple of weeks of the children going back to school. Being that my baby son, my baby boy, he's 27 now. So it's like weird watching all these. Like, where did the time go? And you guys will be sitting in the same position one day. But it's a beautiful thing to see, how active you guys are in your children's lives and preparing them for school and just the obstacles that they may face going through school. It's a different day and age that we're living in now, obviously, between politics, religion, just the state of America in itself. So let's really be mindful and prayerful about how we handle our children and what they're facing and what they're going through. And let's have that line of communication where our children feel like they literally come to talk to us about anything, whether it be mommy and daddy, if not both. Let's open up that line of communication to make sure that they have a safe place, even when they're facing things that they don't necessarily feel comfortable talking about. Be that safe place for them because um, that's how we get dysfunction in young men, young women, when you keep a lot of things bottled in and just, you know, pressure make, like they tell you all the time, pressure make a pipe bust. You know what I mean? So let's make sure that our children understand that they're not going anything alone. You can reach out to your mom and dad, a big brother, big sister, uncle, somebody at church, somebody in the community, your barber, whatever the case may be. But make sure that you know that you're not facing anything alone, and that you do have somebody that you could go to. That's my request. Or that's my suggestion to you all. Um, with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and jump into the show. Um, I was getting to do my intro. My man just disappeared. I'm quite sure he'll be back on. But tonight we got a special guest that'll be joining us. My brother Alvin Howard. He's a entrepreneur. He's a businessman. He's a visionary. He has a lot of things that he want to talk about tonight, as far as a program that he has coming up, a conference that he has coming up this week as well. All right, yeah, he just hit me up. He's coming back on in just a second. But yeah, again, and I'm excited about, we got return to college football season this weekend, as well as we just a week away from the beginning of another NFL season. Shout out to all the guys that made different teams, that made the 53-man cut roster. Today was a deadline at 4 p.m. for them rosters to cut from 90 plus players down to 53. So, congratulations to everybody that made it. At least keep on fighting, keep on working hard. For those that may have got cut, hopefully you displayed enough that another team that might have use for you, that they could pick you up, or whatever the case may be. But I'm excited about another NFL season getting started. And before I forget too, also while we waiting on Al to come back, my condolences to the family and the friends of Reggie Carroll, the comedian that passed away. I'm still waiting on more details to come in before I really get expanded upon it. But we know that the loss of life, so I'm not even into the particulars of how he lost his life or who did what and all that kind of stuff at this particular time. So the more facts come out, I don't like to talk about things when they're too fresh and we don't really have the facts, or we just going by hearsay, because it doesn't matter our opinion. At the end of the day, a life is lost. So, condolences to his family as well as his friends. Um, rest in peace to Reggie Carroll. Been in the game for in the comedy game for many, many, many years. I remember I posted a post yesterday where even he was back on a post from when he was back on Comic View. And I don't even know how long Comic View has been off the air, but BT Comic View, he was on there and tore the house down. Was pretty funny on there. So condolences to him and his family and friends. And as well as usual, I'm sorry. Normally, as I always say too, if you have any questions for myself or tonight's guest, feel free to put them in the comments. Let me know what you guys are watching from, what stream that you're watching from, what platform that you're watching from. Be a part of the show. Yeah. Hey, what's good, Miss Shanae?
Hey
Always
man, sorry about that, man.
on. No problem, bro. Always a pleasure to see you coming on. I'm glad you made it back home safe as well. Um, but yeah, I got my brother here, a young fella that I know I met quite a few years ago, and y'all know how I stated on the show previously. I'm the type of person that I'm a people watcher. Let's put it that way. I like to watch people from afar a lot of times, but this was a cat that I always found to be stand up. Always seemed like he had a good rapport about himself. Handling his business, a fashionista. We can get into that a little bit too. I believe he has a clothing line himself. But I just remember him being stylish and whatnot. And a lot of people that would talk to me, they would tell me about, hey, what's good, Jew? They would always talk about just he's insightful. So I wanted to get him on the show when I seen one of his posts and something that he's coming up in it. But I'm introduced no further without further ado, my man Big Al. What's good, bro?
What's going on, man? I appreciate you having me on.
No doubt, man. So tell the viewers that don't know a little bit about yourself, man.
So if you have not met me already, I go by Al the Great, your neighborhood counterculturalist. And fam, I'm all things counterculture. Jesus was a counterculturalist, and right now that is that is different, have different views, and those views are just kindness and good stewardship. And it's crazy to think that where we are right now, kindness and good stewardship would actually be counterculture. But this is our I say this is our moment on the mound, like Jesus. This is our moment on the mound moment. So we gotta change some things, because otherwise we're gonna be humans without humanity.
Mm-hmm. And where are you originally from, Al?
Bull City.
Oh, you
From
from
Durham.
Durham? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Born, mostly raised.
How do you feel about what's going on with the gentrification before we get into the more serious topics? I've been seeing a lot of different things, and I even posted some stuff last week where the Duke workers was complaining about how they don't make enough money, and a lot of people that work there in the city can't even afford to live in the city. You got to pay for parking at the hospital and whatnot, or Duke in general. And then it was another young man that was going back and forth with the mayor, talking about how they were trying to push a lot of the neighborhoods, so to speak, being nice by saying gentrification, but a lot of them were impacted by people that own homes. A lot of areas that's been affected, have been impacted by black homeowners, as well as old folk homes and different things like that. What you got? How you feel about all that? What's going on and doing right now?
I see a lot of the good and the bad. You know, of course, we have what we call gentrification. You know, where there's this mixing of the population in certain areas that were normally black-owned areas, and well, not black-owned, black lived, because we didn't really own it. So black people live there, and then white people come in, and then the city and people start caring about the area, so they try to beautify it, and it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate, but I have seen, like, Durham is a very different place. And I know often people talk about how bad Durham is now. Bro, I used to go to sleep to gunshots. Like that was my white noise, like pretty much every night, to the point that after a lot of self-evaluating, I realized, like, I didn't like silence. Like, when things got silent growing up, that usually meant that something was about to happen. It was about to be a fight. Somebody's about to get shot. It was like the movies.
The calm before the storm.
Yeah. And I really had a problem with silence. Like, I never could have a silent moment, and that's from growing up in Durham. But it's a lot of good that's coming. There's some money coming to the area. Durham is still listed as one of those places for black businesses. We still listed up there pretty high. And Durham has a history of Black Wall Street. We gotta take the good with the bad, but we also got to make sure we fighting our fights and making sure they're not pushing us out. But this whole issue with economics, man, is a problem for everybody. Nobody's making enough money to do anything. I mean, it's like how much the rent is. It's crazy.
I feel you there. So let's get into it, man. What's up with the Tell me a little bit about the conference that you got coming up this week and what brought that about.
So this weekend on Saturday, we have the Wholeness Rising conference, and I'll try to make sure to put the link down there in the chat. So Wholeness Rising conference, man, and I have been through some situations, like, and we've talked a little bit about just about growing up in Durham, but I've been through some things, man, and I've had to really evaluate who I am and who I wanted to be, and what things that we call normal that shouldn't be normal. Like, there's like so many things that should not be normal. And I got to this place of wholeness after my divorce. I felt like a weight had been lifted, man. I felt more of myself than I had ever felt before. And this was, generations of decades of work, that just kind of got to that point. And I want to see more people get to this point of wholeness. And I define wholeness as the overall alignment with your divine identity, being self-fulfilled, unique, complete, and grounded in your divine values. And I know that's a lot, but this place, man, I'm telling you, this place of wholeness is where a small percentage of people get to. And I think if more people got here, got to wholeness, not building their identity on like, sand, like, because culture is ever changing. You build your identity on culture, you never going to get a firm footing. We have to build our identity on God. So if you build your identity and you get to this place of wholeness, man, there are a lot of things that would not exist. Racism, sexism, like all these things would not exist because you love yourself too much to be trying to treat anybody bad. So this Saturday, man, I want to help people get whole. I wrote a book called Wholeness is the New Sexy, and we can talk about that too. But I want to really help people get whole, man, because I have kids. I know you got kids, man, and
what's good, Jay?
Change, man.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. Now, let me ask you. I just want to make sure I heard you correct. You said you found this place of wholeness in yourself individually after you got your divorce.
Yes, bro. Yes, it's something I was working on, but yeah, I found it afterwards.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So I found myself, and being married. I was married. I've been married twice. I didn't get it right twice. So last marriage, I think it was about 11 years, and I thank God for my sister-in-law at the time, because I would go to her with like complaints, about my marriage and stuff that wasn't right, and she would always refocus me back on me. And I felt like my needs weren't getting met. Like me and my wife at the time, we were feeding a dead thing from the beginning. It was never right. But we made the vows. We were going to stay in it and just work it out as best we could until we couldn't anymore. So I was not going to go out there and cheat. I didn't want that to be my legacy. I didn't want that to be, what my kids would see me for. And I understand why people do that. And it's just a lot of things, man. So I found myself doing a lot of work on me, figuring out what my needs were and how I could fulfill my own needs versus looking to someone else. Because the reason why relationships fail, man, and I know we think about money, we think about somebody cheating, but the real reason why relationships fail is because we have been conditioned to go into relationships half. We are conditioned to go into relationships dependent on the other person. We're looking for them to save us. Women looking for them to feel complete. Men are also looking for women to make them feel complete. Because men are conditioned that we get our value from women and money. And if you're going into a relationship and you're going into a marriage dependent, you're already putting a strain on there, because you're dependent on this person for your worth, for your value, for your identity and everything else. And of course it ain't gonna work. Mm-hmm. And it's just a lot of things that I realized, man. It was a lot of work on me. And I thank God for it. Because I think if I had never been married, I would have never done that work on my own. It would have probably took me. I'd probably been about 75 years old, and then talking about I'm whole. Like it forced me to really look inward, man.
Yeah, and I totally get that. I learned I had no choice, in you myself, and I don't speak on it a lot, but I went through a divorce as well. And to your point, I can agree totally 1,000%, because after I got divorced, it made me reevaluate myself. It made me soul search. I had to literally learn myself as an individual, because I was so used to being a part of a unit for so long. It's like I had no identity. Being alone, so to speak. You know what I mean? So it's like I had to literally learn myself, and it taught me a lot about myself. And you use the word wholeness, but one of the things that I thank God for me personally, that my divorce is, I know that without my divorce, and that's not no knock on her or us or anything of that nature there, But without my divorce, I would not have the relationship with God that I have today. Um, if it had not been for divorce, because it put me in a position where, you know what, okay, now what's your excuse? You know, and I actually talk to people when I do counseling and when I do one-on-ones with individuals with all that there. I remember before the pandemic, you know, that was the most popular thing to say, especially in spirituality and in church and different things of that nature. Oh man, I really wish I could give God more time, you know, but I got the football practice, and I got this meeting, I got this staff meeting, I got to make sure I got date night, I got to make sure I spend time with the kids. We got, you know, you got so much stuff to do. Hey, what's good, T? You know, we got all this stuff to do, and we kind of use it as a crutch and an excuse for why we can't give God His just time in you know, spending time with Him. And then it's like the pandemic come, where God said, "Okay, you so busy with work. Okay, I'm gonna just shut everything down." And
Yeah.
it was like once I got divorced, and along with the pandemic, it's like, okay, if you keep talking about your whole there you go. I got that too. Um, that's the link up there for you guys, and then you guys could copy it as well and follow that to see what's going on with the conference and whatnot. But it was like, you know, now all of a sudden, okay, now what is your excuse? It's like I couldn't be preaching to other people. You know what I mean? I had to literally hold myself accountable. You know what I mean? Now you don't have any excuse. Now you don't have, you know what I mean? If you don't spend the time that you say that you want to with God, then there's nobody fault but your own. And that's exactly what it is, an excuse. Not it's an excuse and not a reason, so to speak. So, you know, I thank God for where I am now today spiritually in my relationship with God, because I think I'm that much more of a better person. I don't think that I'll ever go the marriage route again. That's to be determined. I don't see that in my future, so to speak. I still believe that marriage could be a beautiful institution. I think that, you know, it could be a real good thing for some people, but at the same time, marriage isn't for everyone. Just like parenthood isn't for everybody. Just because you have the ability to procreate, don't mean that you should. But that's a whole different conversation. And you know, but hey, what's good, Steve? I see you out there. Um, yeah, man. But yeah, I feel you on that there. So let me ask you this, Bob, before we move on too. So when you talked about that, finding that wholeness and what wholeness means to you, how sacred it is to you after your divorce. How is it that you would tell people to find? How is it that you go about encouraging people to find that wholeness within a relationship or within a marriage?
So I would say, you know, it is going to take some work when you are already in a relationship, because you've already gotten to this place where you guys have this certain level of dependency. So there's going to be a little friction before it gets better. And it can only make your relationship better though. If you go through the process, and definitely if you guys go through the process together, it will only make your relationship better. And when I'm talking about wholeness, I am literally myself 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
No code switching, no people pleasing, no representative. Like I am myself when I go to work, when I come home, like me 24/7. And I don't think we understand the gravity of that, because we've been conditioned that we need to have all these different masks.
Mm-hmm.
And people pleasing is part of like our evolution. You know, it was for, you know, you had for protection, you had to be in groups. But man, it is such a level of stress that we should not be handling. Like if you having conversations with your wife or your girlfriend, you should be able to have those same conversations whether you with her or not. There shouldn't be no person you are with your wife or your girlfriend, and then there's a different person when you with your boys. Like that's too much, man. It shouldn't be no. You can only say certain things. You can only use certain words. You can only, you know, talk about certain people when you around these type of people. Like that ain't the way it should be. That's just too much stress, man. And life is hard enough. It is hard enough. So first, you got to wholeness requires truth and vulnerability and transparency. And often that is the biggest piece for people, man, especially that vulnerability, especially as men, because we've been taught vulnerability is weakness. But fam, if there's a hole in the boat, that boat is still gonna sink whether you ignore that hole or not. It's still gonna happen. So we are going through making these decisions, and life is just like sinking. And we are not like we are only getting a percentage of what Jesus came back for. Jesus came back so we may have life abundantly, and we focus on the salvation piece, but not the actual living piece. Wholeness is holy in practice. Salvation is holy in position. Like it's time to get that holy in practice, man. It is time to have that full alignment with who God calls you to be. Most of the Bible is telling us who we are, but we keep listening to what culture says.
I feel that. So let me ask you this. You know, and it was funny because I was having a conversation earlier today, and we were talking about how you know, along those lines, like when the scripture says, you know, for those that do believe in the Bible and whatnot, one of the first commandments, actually the second commandment, somebody was saying, this thing that I was watching earlier was, you know, love thyself as you love thy neighbor as thy love thyself. And it was like, it made me think, and something that I've always wondered about, even with myself, you know, being transparent. It's like, how can you love your neighbor if you're commanded to love your neighbor as you love yourself? How can you properly love your neighbor if you don't love yourself? You know, that was one of those things that I battled with. I would hear people talk about that, and I knew that scripture and whatnot, but I had no idea what to love yourself means. I had no concept of. It's like a part of me was like, that's kind of vainish. You know, it's prideful to, you know, but I realize now the necessity of that. Now there's a big difference too that I came up with earlier, and that's for another day, another topic. But you know, there's a big difference between loving yourself and being fully yourself.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of people out here, you know, they talk about they loving me and this my season and this dude, boo. But it's like, whoa, let's scale that back just a little bit. Like I think you kind of overdoing it on the self-love and the self-care, because it's more of a boastful thing and a prideful thing where we have to be careful. So I do believe that there's a boundary there that if we're not careful, we could venture off into sacred, you know, unfamiliar territory. But speak on that a little bit, or how would you go about that there?
I think
how does one grow to a place where they can actually love themselves?
I think there's a duality that I think people aren't used to. You can be like, and I use the lamb and the lion as my logo. And the reason for that, that is counterculture. There's a duality that we are not accustomed to in this culture, or even as believers, that the actual idea that you can be confident and powerful and also be humble. This is what God is calling us to. God is not like man that he should lie. God calls us the salt of the earth, light to the world. Like he spends all this time talking about us, but we spend all this time speaking negative about ourselves. And I think we definitely have to get to that place. And it's funny that you mentioned that scripture, that the second commandment, that is the foundational scripture of wholeness. You can't, there is a symbiotic relationship between loving yourself and loving others. It both teaches you about you when you do it correctly, because we've been conditioned on one side to be heavy on loving ourselves, on the other side to be you know, loving other people, not doing either one of them right, man. Mm-hmm. Like people pleasing and serving people without boundaries is not loving them. That is an act of self-hate. You have to love yourself enough that you understand that you have to have some boundaries. And that is actually what self-care is. When people talk about self-care, man, it's crazy to me. People talk about going to spas and lighting candles and all this other stuff. That's not self-care. That's commercialism. Self-care is sitting with your pain and understanding. Self-care is having healthy boundaries. Self-care is telling people no. Let your no mean no and your yes mean yes. Like that's self-care, man. And you got to find that you have to find that balance, because the problem is our execution. So back to what you're saying, in order to love yourself, first you have to really, you got to be transparent and vulnerable. You can't keep lying to yourself and to God about how you feel and what you want and your motives. You actually got to get to a place of transparency and vulnerability and actually love yourself. Bro, when I was married, there was a point that I had to look in the mirror and I had to tell myself, you don't love you, with tears in my eyes and everything, because you can tell how much you love yourself by what you allow people to, how you allow people to treat you. And I was allowing people to treat me in a way, man, there's no way that I love myself. I was suicidal, had suicidal thoughts and everything, man. So I really had to have that place of that come to Jesus and really be honest and transparent with myself. Like I'm telling you guys, you got to get to that place of transparency, and we got to stop lying, man. We got to stop lying and faking. Like, you ain't gonna get whole that way, and you ain't gonna actually be able to love people that way. If you get wholeness, if you get to this place of loving yourself, and anybody who's looking for somebody to be in a relationship with, or you're married to somebody, or you're in a relationship with them, make room for them to actually love themselves, because they're going to love you better. Mm-hmm. There's man, authenticity trumps everything.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that you hit the nail on the head, because that's something that I live on. That's something that I stand by. And I think that's a lot of time, not just my marriage, but just in relationships in general, why some of my relationships didn't last, or I realized that they were just associations more than friendships. Because one thing I don't know how to do is I don't know how to be fake. Anybody that knows me, they know I've never been a people pleaser. I really, and it sounds heartless, but I really could care less what anybody else thinks. And that's not in a disrespectful way. Yeah. It's just my truth. Because at the end of the day, a lot of times I remember when I first got my divorce, and a lot of people would, had different conversations, and people were like, well, how's things gonna be, man? Y'all was together for so long, and are you guys gonna be friends, and this here, that there? And I'm like, no, I made it clear, like, once we're done, we're done. And I literally had that conversation with her, like, we're done. You know what I mean? And the reason that I felt that way, and I can express it now, a lot of times I wouldn't go into details with people, but it was like, I've seen so many different couples break up over the course of a long time, especially people that have been together for a long time. And, people would always say, oh man, it's so cool that they can still hang out together. Like, I had an uncle that were married for over 50 years and get divorced. Like, what? Like, it's definitely too late to be caught. That's just my opinion, but that's not my life to live. You know what I mean? But even after they divorced, they would still get together once a week to have a meal together, like clockwork. I'm like, huh? Like, don't make sense to, but it's not for it to make sense to me. And people would always talk about how cool that was, and oh man, it's so cool that they could be cordial and be friends and everything like that there. And my thing was, like, back to the people pleasing, why in the world would I put myself in a position where everybody else is cool or think that it's a beautiful thing except for me? I'm the only one that's uncomfortable in the room. Yeah, I'm not going to put myself in that position. You know what I mean? Until I'm ready to. I'm not going to force myself based off of society and everybody think, oh, that's a good look that they could be cordial. No, I got to learn how to process. I got to grieve this whole thing, because that's what it's going to take for me to get where I need to be for my sanity. You know what I mean? So, people, like you said, I think a lot of times what we got to do is, I was willing to admit that to not myself, but others as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like you said, that's where everything starts with being honest and truthful with yourself. You got to know yourself. And if you don't know yourself, take time to learn yourself. I try to tell people a lot of times, like, people like, oh man, from one relationship to another relationship, like, no, take time to sit by yourself, learn yourself. You know what I mean? Because nobody's going to love you. I seen a post the other day that kind of was simple, but it was really impactful to me. Like, it doesn't matter if somebody else didn't tell you that they love you today, as long as you told yourself that you love yourself. You know what I mean? Like, we have to do a better job at making sure our sanity is good. Not pleasing pastor, not pleasing the mother's board, not pleasing the board, the directors at the job, making sure the supervisor's happy, and you come home miserable. You got high blood pressure because you're trying to make sure everybody else is taken care of other than yourself. Yeah. And like you said, I think we got to learn that balance in between, because it doesn't need to be about you. But at the same time, it doesn't need to be where you're giving 80% of yourself for everybody else and you losing yourself in the process. And then before you know, you don't even realize who you are. You don't even know who you are in the whole matter.
Yeah. I actually think that, when people can leave relationships and still have a friendship, man, I think that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
I've seen people do it. And I think one of the key things that you said was, like, when you ready, like, don't get out here trying to fake it and trying to do it and trying to act like you not hurt. And when you hurt, like, that ain't gonna do any good. Like, actually heal, and then see if you can get in there, have that friendship. I mean, I don't understand it, why, people get out of relationships or get out of marriages and people think that you got to be beefing. Like, beefing for what?
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah, like my peace is so important, man. And I love me enough where I ain't getting into no pettiness. I ain't beefing with nobody. Like, I ain't doing that. That's robbing myself of my peace. I ain't got time for that. But one of the things, man, so a lot of the things that, I'm going to teach people at the conference, a lot of the things in my book, Holiness is the New Sexy, and I just did a workbook and journal for the conference. It's called Holiness Rising, the workbook and journal. Is a lot of the things are counterculture, man. So some of them, the things can be very shocking. And one of the things that I teach people is divine selfishness. We have been taught this level of selfishness that is self-serving. When you live by divine selfishness, it is selfishness that is self-fulfilling, because again, you are living and by God's divine values. That is the fruit of the Spirit. That is the Beatitudes. These are God's divine values. That's service. So when you are doing these things, everything you do is going to be an extension of you, and not you doing it to get value. Because if you have a fractured identity, your motives are going to be misaligned, and all of your behaviors end up going to be value subtractors. One of the examples of that, man, is if, let's say, you have somebody volunteering at the church. While they are doing something that is part of God's design, they're doing a righteous act, but it's still going to be a value subtractor, because they are doing it because they are trying to get value. They want to do it. They want to be seen. They want to feel good and all these things. So if your identity is aligned with God, you already know that you are valuable. So you volunteering at the church is just an extension of that value. This is how you don't serve from your emptiness, but you serve from your abundance, and you don't get burnt out, because you're going to tell the people no. You're going to say, no, I can't volunteer. I can't be at the church today because my kids got a soccer game. Or I need a day off. Like, it's a slight tweak, but makes a huge difference. And this comes from all the way from the Garden of Eden. We were valuable. God said we were made in his image. We already had value, but the devil tricked Adam and Eve to searching for value. So we do that every day of our lives. We buy this car, we talk to this person, we get in this relationship looking for value that we already have. So this is why we keep getting in trouble. This is why people are getting depressed and all these things, because you're looking for something that you already have. It is if you stand back and look at it, it is a crazy like strategy that has been going on for like generations.
Mm-hmm. Did I lose? Oh no, you wasn't finished.
Yeah, I was pausing.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. You know, it's and to your point, it I don't think people really get there until it's almost like let's say a vacation or a travel spot. You don't really get the gist of it until you actually get there. You know, when you got the itinerary in your hand and you got plan and everything, and it's still 2 months ahead, and you get the week, even when you're en route, it's not the same. But when you actually get there, get the rest and look at the view that you had from the hotel room, or your feet hit the water, so to speak. Peace is an important thing, and older that we get, is that much more important to have peace. And that's not forsaking, like you say, avoiding community and being active in different areas, but it's important. I remember, as I always go back, I'm a big athlete, so I always go back to sports analogies and whatnot. And I remember watching a game with some friends, and they were saying, "Oh man, he need to get back in the game and all that." There, and I'm like, "Yo, no, he don't." You know, sometime I learned that coaching Pop Warner. Like sometimes I learned that saying, like sometimes you got to take that helmet and you got to protect the player from himself. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times, because you're so committed to it and you so much a part of the team and you're part of the vision, the goal overall at winning the game, it doesn't matter that you got a torn ACL. You want to be out there. Your leg is like a cooked spaghetti.
Yeah.
But you're going to try to get out there, and it's that coach's responsibility to say, you know what? Nah, I respect the heart, but nah, come on, man. I can't put you back out there, because then that's going to be on my conscience. And a lot of times, I think that the older that we get, we got to be at not only just the player, but we got to put ourselves in those coaching positions, in that coach position, to say, you know what? This is not the best for me. It might be a good look to everybody else if I do this here and that there, but if I'm not really committed, or I'm not doing it from the goodness of my heart or whatever, I might need to leave that alone. You know what I mean? Yeah. So a lot of times we got to protect ourselves from ourselves.
Yeah, because, all the time.
Yeah, you know,
all the time we got to do it.
One of my friends told me a couple months ago, like, you know what? You really need to teach a class on how to say no. Like, and I was like, you know, and it made me think about it. It was funny to me in the beginning, but then it made me think about other aspects of life, how we all have gifts, we all have curses, we all have vices, but everything doesn't come as easy for some people as it does for other people. That's just the benefit of me. Like, I have no problem with telling somebody no, and I really don't care how you feel about it after the fact. But I've never been into that, you know, just doing it just for the sake of doing it. And everybody, oh, yeah. And I don't really want to do it. Yeah. Because eventually it's going to come out.
Yeah. And I mean, why disrupt your peace, you know, and lie about something or overextend yourself, you know, in a way that, you know, you can't do it. If you can't be there at that event, you can't be there. So it's no use of like overextending yourself. Man, one of the things is one of the biggest barriers to wholeness is our ability to justify. Mm-hmm. In the garden, God kept me in Genesis for like a long time. And I thought there was nothing else to learn in Genesis. I was like, you know, they ate from the tree, you know, they got kicked out. Like, it is what it is. Like, it ain't nothing else to learn. But there are so many things that was the start in Genesis And one of the biggest ones is that we've been in the Bible talks about how God called it the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Mm-hmm. And I always wonder, like, why wouldn't God want us to have the knowledge of good and evil? Like, what would be wrong with that? But after kind of studying, the translation of knowledge is from da'at, which is the experience, the knowing, and the justification of good and evil. So we didn't get kicked out for really just eating the apple and just disobedience. We got kicked out because now we have the ability to say what is right and wrong versus leaning on God of what is right and what is wrong. So we still, again, do the same thing today. Think about how many things that we justify as good and it's not good. Like it gets us in trouble all the time. Mm-hmm. And back to what you're saying about being your own coach, like you got to be your own coach. You got to go by not just justifying what you think is good, but you got to go by what something that is concrete, what God said, and stop overextending yourself to and doing all these things, like you said, just because you think it's a good look or somebody else thinks it's a good look. Like, we got to stop justifying it. You got to be that place of vulnerability, man.
Yeah. And what you and it's funny that you would bring that passage up or that topic up too, because I always tell people that's one of those areas that I never struggled in. I never wondered why would God not want us to. And I think a lot of that had to do with growing up in the hood and different things that I was exposed to at an early age, at a later age, just different things in general. And it's like, could it be if you really love the Lord, right, and you really worried about pleasing Him? Could it be possibly that He trying to protect us from ourselves? There are certain things that you shouldn't know, that you should not, doors that you shouldn't open up to even know that you like, because it might actually draw you that much farther away from Him, so to speak. You know what I mean? So it's like, I always looked at that like a safety measure, not as opposed to, like if Mama told me don't touch the stove, so it must be hot. Why would she tell me that? And I still want to touch the stove. I'm like, no, God knows me better than I know myself. So there has to be a reason that He doesn't want me to know everything about myself, because certain things that I know that I might not have no filter. I always try to tell people, like, even when it comes to sports. And I got a cousin that always tell me, you got to stop saying it. I'm like, no, but that's my truth. Like I'm a 100% sure that I felt like I could have made the NFL. You know what I mean? No question about it within my mind. And that's not me building myself up, but I definitely could have made the NFL. Now, would I have been a household name? Absolutely not. But I could have been on somebody's special teams. I could have made the league, whatever the case may be. But I also believe that if I had made the league, then guess what? I honestly don't feel like we would be sitting here having this conversation today, because I'd have been dead a long time ago. I'd have been going to the best parties. I would have had the best groupies. I would have had the best cocaine. I would have had the best. I would have went crazy. You know what I mean? So that was my way of making it for the league, not making it to the league, like my protection, because I know that I know myself. Yeah. And I would not have been able to say, you know what? No, you know what? I can
do it. Yeah, I can do it.
I'm going home tonight, and you got 300 chicks out here, all different ethnicities, looking like a full smorgasbord, and I'm gonna just go ahead back to my room while my wife's 6-7 states away. It'd have been too much for me. And I thank God every single day, because I know that I wouldn't have been able to handle it. I'm honest enough with myself to say, I'm not going to handle, I would have folded under that type of pressure. So a lot of times I think I look at it like not as God trying to hide anything from us. I believe that He's hiding the good things from us, because if we believe the other scripture that says that all things work together for the good of them that love. So I always tell people, my divorce was a blessing. As crazy as it may sound, it was a blessing, because I have the relationship that I have with God now. Different things of that nature there, just different aspects. The reason that I don't have the job that I once had, oh man, that was a good job and all that there. It all served this purpose, because ain't no telling how things would have went if I had to make, you know what I mean? if some of those avenues had stayed open to me. So I don't never second guess things that I've been through in life. I look at everything that we go through is something to be learned from.
Yeah.
There's something that we need to take away from it. Like, God doesn't bring us to anything that he won't bring us through. That's the way I look at things. You know what I mean? And, we were talking about it earlier, and we can kind of get into that now. But, even with the brotherhood, because, you got the conference this week with the wholeness, but you got the walk next week. And I was telling you before we went live, and I had mentioned it last week, like, us as men, we see women do it all the time. They get together with their little girlfriends and the groups and do this here and do that there. But I really be feeling like a lot of times we need to be more vulnerable as men and drop that, like you said earlier, the word that you use, mask, of this fake mask of masculinity, because it doesn't. Hey, what's good, bro? We need to console one another. We need to talk to one another. Matter of fact, I'm glad I seen your name too, man, because I have been praying for you. I'm gonna reach out to you before this week is over, bro. But yeah, we got to do a better job of just being there to talk to one another and, console one another. And sometimes, like, one thing about us men, when we talk to each other, one of the benefits of talking to each other, and I always try to tell people, especially in terms of like relationships, like when we talk to each other, we understand each other as men for the most part. You feel what I'm saying? And what I mean by that is, like, when I come to my brother and tell him what I'm going through or what I'm struggling with, he know that he's a bouncer board. He just want me to listen. A lot of times in relationships, when we share these different things with our partner or our significant other, it's like, I'm not sharing this with you because I need your help in fixing the problem. I'm just venting at this time. You know what I mean? It's like that doesn't have to be explained when we talk amongst each other. So it's like, even when I go home and I visit my boys back home, when I leave, when I can tell my bros that I know them for whatever, we've been in the trenches together. But when I tell them I love them and they tell me that they love me back, it's so cool all these years later that, we could get past that. And then ain't no, pause and, no homo and all this other kind of stuff. Like, I'm glad to be in a space in a day and time where we actually could be comfortable and it doesn't demasculate us. It just makes us that much secure in our manhood when we could be real and let another man know that I love you, bro.
Yeah, so one of the things you were saying about, looking back and not looking back with regrets. So I live by this motto: let regret be your mentor and not your master. Mm-hmm. Because often, there are going to be things that you look at your life, and all of us are going to have some regrets. Regrets meaning that you wish you would have did that better. But that can be a place of a lesson and not a place of shame. When you really go into it with vulnerability and honesty and learn from that situation. We way too often we let regret be our master and let that shame build up, and it just keeps us from actually learning, because nothing ever good comes out of regret. Out of shame. Shame is a misused form of guilt. Mm-hmm. Guilt is important. Guilt says I did something bad. Shame says I'm a bad person. And nothing good is ever going to come out of shame. That's what the devil wants us to feel. He wants us to feel shame. And when you were talking about the bros, that is amazing that you have that relationship with your bros. I don't think most other men have that same relationship. I think most other men, and they go and they approach each other with this mask of bravado. Men get together, and I think one of the hardest things for men, because we are conditioned in a way that we get value from women and money. So when you get with your bros, it becomes like a pissing contest, and you trying to stick your chest out and he trying to stick his chest out. And it ain't so much they actually doing it, but you can hear it in the way people speak. Mm-hmm. And some bros don't even know what to do when it's time to stop chasing women. Like you don't even know how to be with the fellas again, because y'all ain't chasing women together. All y'all may be married, and it becomes this whole awkward situation. And I think we got to be vulnerable. Like I when I have conversations with people, man, and often I tell them that, we'll start off, I just need you to listen to me, or I need some feedback. Even in my relationship, my romantic relationship, that's the way I'm start off, because I think a lot of people don't know what to do with that. Because a lot of men want to fix stuff, man. It's kind of in our nature that we want to fix stuff. But that's one of the reasons I started the Counterculture Kings. Like, it is a actual brotherhood that has levels, that has crossing, kind of built on some of the teachings of, or the foundation of, like a fraternity, but it is Christ-centered. It is really about teaching and being in that duality of that lion and that lamb, and us coming together and actually walking together and in a safe space. Because, man, we need safe spaces. It's the bravado, man, and the what we've been taught about masculinity, like, that stuff got to change. It is bondage. And one of the scriptures says, the way that you, I'm paraphrasing, the way that you bound a strong man is that you, in order to first enter a strong man's house, you must first bound him. Masculinity, the way that culture taught it to us, has been bondage for generations. It keeps you from having experiences. It keeps you from doing things because you want to remain under this lens of masculinity and look strong and look like you have it together, and have this fake image of bravado. And that ain't like that's not the way that you can really find yourself, because you're gonna find, in order to find yourself, you got to have some awkward moments. You got to have some moments where you don't know what the hell you're doing. Like you ain't gonna always know what you're doing, and you just ain't gonna get it that way, man.
I feel you there. So with the brotherhood that you got going on, Matt, how is it that somebody that might be watching, how can they be a part of this? Is it do you have to be local? Do you have it online? Like what's the deal with that? How do you become a part of this brotherhood?
So definitely, I just posted the link. Go to the link, and if the brotherhood is a safe space for men, and I know Facebook be acting crazy, man. It be inviting women, and it be inviting some of my sisters. Some of my sisters I'm close to, and then I got to kick them out. And I'm sorry, y'all. It's Facebook doing it. I'm not inviting you. So it is for strictly men. And I want it to be a safe space for men, where a place where you can be vulnerable. So go to the link. Definitely, you can get in there, join that way. I see the vision for this, of this being national chapters in areas, but this is something I'm building right now. So if you are locally, we have some events locally, and bro, this is a starting point, trying to give men a safe space. And like I said before, the way I envision this thing and the way God built this thing in the lab, this is something that you have never seen before. Like, when I say we are walking together, we are going through life together, and there is a process that people go through to cross. There's a level of like a crossing and a ceremony. Like, this is something different. And that is what I want to build this into. Again, taking it back to Genesis. When God made Eve, this always amazed me. Adam walked with God, physically walked with God. God was right there. He was talking to God just like me and you talking. And God said it wasn't good for man to be alone. Even though he was physically present with God. And Eve was just a model. She was just part of a model of community. We need community. As men, as women, as all of us, we all need community. And this is what I'm trying to build with this brotherhood. I'm trying to build a community for men, because we've been conditioned in a way that we got to look like we got it together. We got to be silent. We can't be, vulnerable and do all these things. And man, that just puts us at a disadvantage. We passing down a legacy of pain and just holding stuff in. and that it's only acceptable behaviors or only acceptable emotions is anger and desire for a woman. And that ain't the way we got to raise our kids and our bros, man, and our boys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and shout out while we talking about it, shout out to Miguel Quinn too. That's one thing I always respected about Miguel back in our Victorious Praise days. Like, he was one of those cats that was always trying to get the brothers together, whether it be to watch the Super Bowl together, let's go bowling together, like, just always, and I always admired and respected him about that, for that, because like you say, I think that that's something that's lacking and missing within the church a lot of times. You know, even myself, I'm guilty of it. Like, I always seen the need of it, but I'm like, man, I'm not about to go hang with them dudes. I don't know them dudes like that. You know what I mean? So, like you say, you know, I think that is important for us to know that we have these different outlets, and we have, like you said, safe places where we can come together, and it's judge free. It's judge free. Nobody's there judging you, but we all need somebody to vent to, you know, because like I said earlier, you know, pressure make a pipe bust, man. The more and more we hold stuff in, man, and don't get stuff off our chest, and we try to fight it and deal with things alone, only thing that it's going to do is get worse at the end of the day. Yeah. 9 times out of 10, you're going to create a more of a difficult situation by trying to carry that load by yourself. You know what I mean?
It's going to happen. It's going to come out whether you want to or not. I had I've been whole for a little while now, and after years of not dealing with stuff, I learned about emotional detachment. This is when, you know, I was feeling stuff, but I didn't know I was feeling stuff, and I could only understand that I was feeling stuff by my body. You know, if my hands, you know, fist balled up, I knew I was angry. Like, years of emotional detachment. And it caught up to me. And I was dealing with stuff, coping with stuff in my head and sitting with the pain and doing stuff to move on, but the body still keeps score. Bro, last year, I had full out paralysis. Body just shut down because of just the stress. Not dealing with stuff in my body. And this is one of the things, man, this is also what made me start the group. Like, we got to do something about it, because if you don't do something about it, that same thing can happen. It's called functional neurological disorder. You can have neurological symptoms without a neurological cause. People have strokes. You have paralysis, all these things. So if you don't do something to deal with that stress and get it up off you, it's going to deal with you, and not in a way that you're going to like it.
Yeah. My man Jahai said, yo, we just had that same discussion with the bros at my church, God's Man on Deck. I like that title too.
I like it too.
But we got to, like I said, we got to do a better job, man. And what exactly is the walk? And, you know, people that are local and that can participate in it. Man, what's up? Yeah, I'm definitely going to reach out, bro. He said I had a heart attack because of stress. Yeah, man. And stress is one of those things. It's one of those things, especially the older that we get, man. We got to stop letting things stress us out, because we can't afford to. We not 21 no more. We can't bounce back like we used to. And like you say, you got to pay attention to what your body's telling you. You know what I mean? That's why it's important for us to get our rest. That's why it's important for us to spend some quality time alone with God. You know what I mean? God deserves more than just 5 minutes when we wake up in the morning, or, you know, real quick before we go to bed. No. And then one of the things that I try to tell people too, that what helped me, and hopefully it encourages somebody else, is one of the things that really helped me was when I said, you know what? I don't want to just love God. I don't just want to have a relationship with God. I want to be in love with God. And that's not in a perverted way, anything of that nature there. But no, the same way I would do with a woman, I want to be, you know what? No. Yeah, it'd be cool, but I got to spend some quality time with my God. You know what I mean? Just, what do you want to watch tonight? What do you want to talk tonight? What do you want to read tonight? And the more and more I made myself available to him, it's just like any other natural relationship, you know, a physical relationship. The more and more you give, the more and more you get in return. And it was like different things that exposed. And like I said, I would learn different things about myself. But it's necessary to Jahai said, I have to get a machine to help my heart function now. My heart function is at 22%. Wow, man. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely be praying for you, bro. Definitely be praying, keeping you lifted up in prayer with that. But it's important, man. We have to listen to what our bodies are telling us, because we're not getting any younger. And most of us, sad to say, we got more days behind us than we have ahead of us. So the question that I always ask myself, forget everybody else, you can ask yourself, but I ask myself is, what am I going to do with the time that I have left? I made the post Sunday. I think that's one of the reasons that the word present is, you got the past, future, and the present. But I believe that the present is called the present because that's exactly what it is. It's a present. You know what I mean? And far too many times we take too many days for granted. Oh, I get to it this weekend. Oh, I call them this weekend. And we got people that are leaving here. You know what I mean? You can't afford to wait anymore. You can't afford to take care of things or get this checked out, because it's important that we be very vigilant and treat it like a present with the time that we have left, because none of us are people always say nobody's promised tomorrow. I say nobody's promised midnight. We're not promised to see this evening. You know what I mean? The end of this day. So let's be very intentional about what we do with the time that we have left. Let's make it count. Let's make it count. Like we don't partied enough. We don't have fun enough. We don't have, you know what I mean? What kind of impact are we going to leave when we're no longer here in these physical bodies? Like, what kind of impact are we going to leave on not just the world, but our communities, our families, and our immediate people that's a part of our circle, man. So it's very important. Where exactly is the walk taking place at?
So the walk is going to take place. It is in Durham. Also, it's at the Eno Valley Park. It's going to be September 6th. I think that's the date. You guys can go to the group. All the information is in the group. But it's what we do on that walk, man. I call it the walk and carry. What we do is I bring a 10-pound kettlebell, and when somebody when they decide that they want to speak and somebody else is speaking, they ask somebody for the kettlebell. So when it's their time to speak, they hand off the kettlebell. And what that is symbolizing is the lifting of that weight. Mm-hmm. There have been plenty of studies that have been done that they study the importance of verbalizing things. Often when people don't verbalize things, you don't truly get rid of it. You have to communicate. There's something in that ability to communicate. This is why, children and people who can't communicate verbally, this is why sometimes you see autistic kids have like these tantrums, because there's something about being able to verbally say something so people can understand. And that is what that symbolizes, lifting that weight up off of you. Because, man, we have to unburden ourselves. We got to get out of these shackles, man. Mm-hmm. There is a you that you have not experienced because you're handcuffed to this mask of masculinity. That ain't what God intended, man. I always go back to the example of one of these moments as God is an example of masculinity. When Jesus came to heal Lazarus, we'll bring him back. When he came in there, he took the time to grieve with the family. He wasn't confused about what he was coming there to do. He knew he was bringing Lazarus back, but he took the time to cry and grieve with the family, and then brought him back. Mm-hmm. But as men, what we've been taught is emotions or crying, that is a obstruction. Like that, we don't have time for that. We don't have time to cry with our kids or cry with our wives or cry with our family members. Like that's not manly, that's feminine. And even some women have been taught that's feminine for a man to do that. Like we gotta get up out of that, man. And this is the way we do it. It's all about wholeness, and this is just another way to get there. While I'm trying to encourage it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm one of those ones. I'm glad I was never taught that. I remember when I was a kid, my uncle, I guess my uncle seen me trying to fight back some tears, and he said, I remember him, he looked at me, he almost went off on me like, yo, you want to cry? It's all right to cry. If God ain't want you to cry, he wouldn't have gave you tear ducts.
Yeah.
Don't let nobody tell you ain't no man if you cry. You know what I mean? It's natural. It's part of life. And I was like, ever since then, I was always good. I was always comfortable with it. You know what I mean? Not to mention, especially by the time I got to high school, you know, no matter how hard you may be or think that you may street that you may be, the women like to see a little emotion come out of dude. You know what I mean? That they ain't never seen that side of you. So it could be a benefit of that way too. I'm not telling y'all. I'm not giving y'all no tips to go out there and try it, but
Giving you the game. Giving you the game.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But yeah, like how I said, and I agree with him. He said I like that the idea that you're using, and to me, it's so symbolic on so many different levels. You know, you talked about, you explained it in the purpose of it, but it's even deeper than that to me too, from a symbolic standpoint too, because it's like now when we got this group of men and we out here walking together and we passing that weight off. You know, it's just like anything else. They're like they tell us, there's power in numbers. So it's like as I pass that weight, my weight to you, and we walking in and we supporting you, it's like we start to realize no matter how heavy our weight is a whole less lighter, is a whole lot lighter when we know that we're not carrying it alone. You know what I mean? When we got some assistant with us. And guess what? You know what? I ain't the only one with a weight. You know what I mean? His might be 17 pounds, mine might be 13 pounds, whatever the case may be. But we all carrying it, and together, there's, like I said, there's power in numbers, man. And that's how we grow. One of the things that I always used to tell people in ministry and counseling, you know, there's a scripture that talks about, you know, let us confess our faults one to another. And I said, I think that was a scripture, especially while we're talking about manhood. But I mean, and this applies for all relationships. That's such an important scripture that I think that get overlooked so many times, because it's not to be messy, like I always like to say. It's not to be spreading people business, different things of that nature there. But it's so that I know how to attack the spiritual realm in prayer for you. I don't need to be praying for your finances if you struggling with a gambling addiction that I don't know about. you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it's important for us to confess our faults one to another. So you know what? I could be specific when I go to the throne of grace on your behalf. You know what I mean? Because now I got a target area instead of praying just general prayers or whatever the case may be. So, you know, I think that is very important, and I'm proud of you for taking initiative and feeling led to do this, and actually bringing it to light, bringing it to fruition, man. Because so many times, that's another thing that we got to stop doing with a lot of, as brothers. You know, a lot of times we have these different concepts and we have these different ideas of different things that we might think would be cool. But like you say, man, I don't want to look like no sucker, man. Them jokers ain't gonna know how to take this. And you know, we let that, just the thought process of doing a thing kind of deter us from doing exactly what we were meant to do, what we created to do, part of our purpose. So I think that is important for us to, you know what, let's get that head out there. And I'm proud of you, man. And I salute you for actually getting the ball rolling on this. And I hope, like you said, I believe that this is just the beginning. I believe that it's going to be a dorm thing, but I believe I can see it where, you know, maybe within years' time, in a few years down the road, you having to have satellite conventions, satellite walks, where you got a San Antonio chapter, you got a chapter down in Florida, you got a chapter there in Jersey, and we all coming together and supporting one another, you know, through brotherhood, man. Because I am my brother's keeper. You know, this ain't New Jack City. Yeah, I am my brother's keeper, and all my friends that know me, they know that that's something that I live by and I take heartily. You know, one thing you're not gonna do is you're not gonna talk about. You ain't gonna say nothing about none of my boys in front of me that you want to say to their face. I don't play that. You know what I mean? I don't do that backbiting and all that kind of stuff there. And I think that it's just time for us to learn how to redefine what being a man is, and you know, on our terms for each of us, because we all have a different concept of what a man is, and stop letting us dictate. Oh my God. Stop letting women dictate to us what manhood is about.
Yeah.
Based off of what they think it is and different things of that nature there. No, I don't care what your mama taught. I don't care what your daddy taught you. I don't care what you grew up believing. that ain't my definition of manhood. You know, it's time for us to redefine manhood and what manhood looks like to us, and walk in it. You know what I mean? Because we'll be respected that much more for it once we could be, like we said earlier, once we could have those real conversations amongst ourselves. So, man, my hat's off to you for actually getting the ball rolling on this and actually putting it into motion and active, man. I think I'm gonna be out of town that weekend, but if I am here in the state of North Carolina, I'm gonna definitely try to get out there to be a part of it.
Well, this definitely won't be the only one, bro. And you know what you were saying, you were hitting on a lot of the points of the brotherhood when you said, "I am my brother's keeper." So that's one of the call and responses that you know, I hope to be able to teach in the future. You know, when people say, I am my brother's keeper, and the response is kept, covered, and carried. You know, we gotta be more. Like we need all of those things as brothers, man, because this is part of God's original design. God's original design is community. You know, God is in a community of three. He wants us to be in community, but we keep listening to what the devil is saying. And the biggest reason, man, I'm able to do this is because of wholeness, man. You know, I haven't been able to do a lot of things because I was worried about what other people thought. I have, you know, one of the things I teach about the three levels of identity. You got social, personal, and divine. When your foundation is your divine identity and everything else is aligned, like stuff is more concrete, because most of the time the foundation of our identity is social, and culture changes all the time. Man, it's like building a house on the top of sand. You can't get a firm foundation. The wind is gonna blow, and you're just not gonna be a firm foundation. So I do this because this is like part of who I am, and this is an extension of the value God has already had in me. And yeah, me and you talked about before it started. Bros be making it difficult. Like it ain't just this, but we think we know that you need it, but you won't make it a necessity. Mm-hmm. And it's not just about, you know, the walk. It is us as human beings in general. Like we don't love ourselves. We don't love ourselves because if you know that you need something, then you make it a necessity. Mm-hmm. And that's the place we got to get to, man. It's so many things, so many, bro. But yeah, we're gonna keep it going. And I appreciate I love the vision, you know, satellite walks. I'm seeing it. So I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Now with the conference, the Wholeness Conference this weekend, is that an in-person thing only too, or can they, is it something that you could do online, or how do they go about being a part of that?
Bro, I want to give everybody this wholeness. I want everybody to get it. So it is virtual. Not just it is in person. Like, yeah. Look, however I can get it to you. If I got to send it to you in the mail, I don't know how that's going to work, but we're going to make it do what it do. Like, okay. But I want everybody to get this wholeness, man. And I want to, God gave me a framework. And it's a framework that mixes psychology and biblical truths. It's called New Messiah Praxis Theory. And this is the kind of a piece of that, what I'm going to be teaching at this conference. Bro, the devil has a strategy that he's been using, the same strategy, and we keep falling for the same tricks, man. And it's time for us to look at what he has been doing and really get back to this place of wholeness, because we had it before, but we lost it in the garden. It's time to get back there.
I'm with you. Lead the way, man. Teach us all, man. Show us the path, man. We'll follow. Now, what exactly time is the conference, and what's going on this weekend? Is it an all-day conference? Is it just Saturday? Talk a little bit about the conference itself this week.
So all I want is 2 hours of y'all time. Just look, give me 2 hours. Give me 2 hours of your time. And I'm going to break down from the beginning to the end to living in wholeness, you know, how to walk with it. I'm going to talk about relationships, and I'm going to talk about what wholeness is. I'm going to even talk about the fall from wholeness. And I talked about it a little bit on here. We had wholeness in the garden, and then we lost it. Like wholeness is a part of God's original plan. Wholeness is a part of what Jesus came back for. He came to fulfill that piece for us to be able to have a relationship with God and be able to spiritually be able to talk to him, but also for us to have the mindset and the alignment with God. And we've been getting a portion of it and just been going about our merry way. It's time for us to get all of it. But 2 to 4, you can get the workbook. I dropped the link for the workbook. Go on the link for the conference. I just dropped that a few minutes ago. You can buy virtual tickets or in-person tickets. I would rather you be there in person so we can walk through this together, so I can, talk to you, so you can ask some questions. But virtually, that'll work too. We're doing it both. And if you buy virtual tickets, you will also have access to the playback. So let's say you can't be there for the time, virtually, you'll be able to get the playback later. So you still get the knowledge and the information.
Okay. All right. Well, like you said, that's this Saturday, August the 30th, 2 to 4 p.m., right?
Yeah.
And that's Eastern Standard Time for everybody that's Central and Pacific. That'll be 2 to 4 Eastern Standard Time, man. But, man, listen, I appreciate you taking out some time to chop it up with me this evening, man, and just coming on talking about this here. I feel impacted already, just talking about the wholeness and the whole brotherhood walk and whatever. And I'm ready to get involved and be, play my part in well, man, because like I say it on the show from time to time, quite often, I raised my 2 sons that the only thing that you go do in this world by yourself is be lonely.
Yeah.
Real talk, it takes everybody. You need somebody. You know what I mean? If you're an artist, you need people to buy your music. If you whatever the case may be, So let's be intentional, like I said earlier, with the time that we have left, about being supportive of one another and encouraging one another, and just like I said, just being there for one another when we seeing each other in endeavors, because God won't have you give what you can't give and not reimburse you. You can't be God given. You can't be God given. So it might be some ventures that you have down the line that you want to partake in. People gonna remember that you supported them. So let's be real. Be real intentional about and purposeful about supporting one another, man. Steve said, "What's good, bro?" He just said, "A great discussion and very inspiring to do what God has called us to do." Absolutely, man. And thanks for tuning in, bro. Matter of fact, I got to reach out to wifey. I see she's having a talk on Wednesday night, tomorrow night, about surviving breast cancer, whatever. So I want to get on the show. Sometime in October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I usually try to do shows around breast cancer survivors and their struggles the whole month of October. So hopefully I'll be able to get her on there. But y'all check her page out as well, and let's try to support her tomorrow evening as she does her thing. I believe is at 7:00 Central Time tomorrow. I believe, is that correct, Steve? Either way, go to either Stephen Cobb's page or Cynthia page, Cece's page on Facebook. And if you haven't got a chance to copy it or get the link from this live right here, go to Alvin Howard's page, and the information will be on his page as well for the conference this weekend. You'll be able to purchase tickets virtually and however else on this page. There's a barcode set up as well. And then the walk will be at what time on September 6th?
It's going to be, I think it's at 9:45, and it is going to be September 6th. It's the next week. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that tomorrow evening we're going to go over and support her at 9 p.m. That's Central Standard Time, so 8:00 Eastern. No, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. I know I seen on her page it was Central Standard Time. I always make sure I always differentiate the two, because I've had guests on it and previously that on Central Time. And I used to live in Arkansas, so I know the difference. The hour difference make a difference sometimes.
It does. You said hers at Central Standard Time?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that myself. I didn't see that myself.
Yeah, I made sure I always pay attention to the CST versus the EST after living out in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Just one of those things I picked up, man. But yeah, man, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, man. I appreciate you guys spending this afternoon with us, this evening with us, and being a part of the conversation. Did you have anything that you wanted to shout out or push, promote, and closing out? Hey, what's up with the clothesline too, bro? You still doing the clothes?
I am, man, and that's a whole nother conversation. I am still doing it.
Oh, my correction.
Think,
Steve said it's Eastern Standard Time for a discussion.
Okay, that's what I thought too. Yeah, I am still doing it, but I think I'm gonna have to readjust because these tariffs, man, and tariffs is kicking my butt.
Got you.
But definitely, man, follow me. I'm trying to do this work of wholeness. If you want me to come speak, if you want me to come teach, I would love to do a wholeness rising tour. I want as many people to get whole as possible. This is, like I said, this is part of God's original design. This is the second transformation. First transformation being salvation. That is holy in position. Wholeness is holy in practice, holy in alignment. Like we all need this. Why are we settling for a portion of what Jesus died for? Like it's when it was hard. It's crazy to wrap your head around. So we all need this. Definitely come to the conference, get your ticket, and let's do this work, man. Because we all need vulnerability, man. And it's time to stop faking it. And people out here dying. People out here killing themselves. People out here killing other people because they are dependent in these relationships or not whole. Like we gotta stop all of that.
I agree, bro. But again, man, we're gonna get ready to get out of here, man. I appreciate everybody for taking the time out. Again, if you watch the playbacks on the YouTube channel, and you want to leave some comments or you want to reach out to Al or myself, feel free to comment on the video on the YouTube channel, and I will get the notification that you commented, and we'll get back to you. If it's for Al, I'll pass the information along. But yeah, we'll definitely get back to you, man. I appreciate you guys for rocking with us as usual. We'll be back next week.
And I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, no doubt, bro.
Say that. I appreciate it, man. Appreciate the support.
Yeah, no doubt. That's what I'm about, bro. And like I said, I ain't doing it for no fanfare, no brownie points. Hey, anybody that got something they want to talk about or come on and promote, hey, your boy here for you. You know what I'm saying? I'll stand 10 toes down on that. But I want to say everybody have a good weekend. You might miss the first game because we're gonna be on holding this rising on from 2 to 4. But it'll be some good games after that. You know what I mean? We got the opening of college football season this Saturday. Well, actually this Thursday night. So actually I got a family function Saturday on the day, but I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna figure it out one way or the other. But man, I appreciate everybody, man. Y'all stay safe this week. Have a good week. We'll see you back next week with our first of the month freestyle show. I love you all. I appreciate you all. And as usual, in signing off, DeAndre and Elisha know that Daddy loves you intentionally, but I also love you unconditionally. So next week, peace.